Go to this website. If you do not have an account, it should look like a big blue page. It'll say tabroom.com on the left-hand side, big white letters. If you go over to the right of that same headline, it'll say log in or sign up. If you do not have an account, please sign up. If you have an account, you can kind of ignore this portion because you're already set up. So if you do not have an account, click sign up. Once you get to that page, you'll see like a little block at the top that talks about like NSDA, things like that. You can scroll past that and start by typing in your first name, your last name, your email. Also, if you would like them to text you, then you can give them your phone number, which I find very helpful because they'll text you the room you're supposed to go to, who you're judging, what time your round is supposed to start. It's also beneficial because if there's ever any changes, if they change your room last minute, if they take you out of a debate last minute, they put you in a debate last minute, they will text you to let you know that. And so putting your phone number in is a really, really good idea. Unless you check your email like all the time, I would strongly recommend putting in your phone number. The landline is very important. If you don't put the landline, the text messages will not go through. So that's just Verizon or AT&T, whatever phone cell service you have. Make sure you put that as well. Make sure it's a password you can remember. I forgot mine like 3 times now. It's bad. So just make sure you have one that you can remember and you can log into easily. Once you make an account, it'll bring you to another page that says like link to judge, link to student, any of those things. You don't have to worry about that because if this is your first time judging, you don't have a tab room history, so there's nothing to link to. Once all that information is put in, you've created a sign up, all that, you'll see your email address will pop up on the top right where it said sign up and log in. Now it'll have your email address up there. If you were to click on that, it'll bring you to what we call your home screen. If you are judging in any debate, it will pop up there. The round you are judging will pop up. It'll have the students you're judging, the room, and it'll say the word start. Do not click the word start until you are actually starting your debate. If you're judging 2 flights, there'll be 2 of them because there's 2 separate debates happening. So again, if there's nothing on that home screen, you're probably not judging.
Yes. So I'm supposed to be judging at Georgetown, and it says there's this thing for link your account. Do I do that, or does someone else do that?
Alyssa may have already put you in, so click link to judge. And if you see your name pop up next to like Potomac debate, then that's us. And that means
there are no judges' names.
Right.
Then that means, yeah, that means she hasn't put you in yet, so you're fine.
So don't do anything else.
Yeah, don't do anything else. You're all set. It's weird because they don't send you like a confirmation email. They don't send you like a confirmation text. But if you've made it to that screen, that means you have been set up. Everything should work the way it's supposed to. The reason they do this is because they don't want to like inundate you with a bunch of messages.
Can we link it to our own student to see?
There is a way to link to your student that we'll talk about at the end because I'll leave a little period of time for questions. But we'll talk about how to link and follow your student as well, so you can know where they're supposed to be and send them a text message saying go to your room. All right, so once this is all set up, you are good to go. Like I said, I know it's weird, they don't send you anything, but as long as your account is made and you're using your email address, also make sure this is the email address that Alyssa has because when she links you to the competition, she's going to use the email address that you gave us. So if that's different from the email that you just used, please make sure you let her know so that she can use the right email to link you to the competition. If it's the same email, you're all set to go. We should be fine from this point. And like I said, when you start judging, everything will be on that home screen. You just click on it, everything will open up. You'll see exactly what I've been talking about in terms of the speaker points, the win or loss, the RFD page, all that will be right in front of you. Once you click submit, it'll go through. You can start your next debate. It works very, very smoothly. I know I'm giving you a lot of information, but in practice, it actually runs a lot more smooth than this. Yes?
So the speaker points is the only grade we're giving to the debaters. Like you had mentioned before, you can think about argumentation and persuasion. So if I think one team was more persuasive, they get higher speaker points, but they may still lose.
Yes.
Accurate.
Yep, so typically I use this area to explain that because, students will feel it's weird. They're like, wait, I got a 29 for speaking, but I lost. And so they'll be a little confused by that. So just explaining that here, just being like, I thought your, speaking was very good. I did not find your arguments to be particularly persuasive. I thought they needed more evidence, but your presentation of those arguments was fantastic. So that's how that could happen.
So the points which you're giving is only for speaker points, nothing else about argumentation?
Yep, just speaker points, yes. Yeah, that's why they keep those separate because, judges will have confusion on what they should vote on, should not vote on, things like that. So they created these separate areas. Now, like I said, there are judges that focus, they say if you gave the stronger presentation, you should win the debate. That's totally up to you if you prefer to judge that way.
So do the kids advance based on the win-loss or based on the speaker points?
They advance in the competition based on both, technically. So, first and foremost, their win-loss rate is what matters most. If they are undefeated, they're going to continue to go throughout the competition. Now, let's say we have 2 undefeated teams to figure out who's first and who's second, they'll use it by putting their partnership speaker points together, and whoever has the highest will be the top seeded. So it does matter for kind of breaking ties. This is very important for competitions like Georgetown that are very large, and Harvard that's also very large, because you will have a lot of teams that have maybe like a 4-2 record, 4 wins and 2 losses. And the way that they divide who makes it into the top 32 is by speaker points. And I will tell you, being on the losing side of that, as in being the 33rd seed by 0.1 of a point, is not fun. It's happened to me, it's happened to my debaters. So that's why speaker points do matter. We tell the students, yes, it's nice to win. Also go for the speaker points. Like, present your arguments well, because if you don't, you could win, 4 rounds, but you might not make it to elimination rounds on 0.1 of a point. Yes.
The speaker points go to against the name of that particular student? Or?
Yes, the speaker point goes to that specific student. They only put them together when it comes to breaking team ties. At the end of the competition, they give speaker awards as well that congratulates the students based on their individual performance. So the top speaker could be, from Potomac, and their partner might be like the last speaker at the competition. So it really just depends on that person's speaking ability. So that's why I say try to evaluate them independently of their partner. Like if their partner is maybe not the best speaker, but they are a great speaker, don't be afraid to give them vastly different speaker points if that's what they deserve.
So the speaker point, does it have anything to do with how they structure their argument as well?
Probably in the opening speeches, it has a lot to do with how they word it. So they'll try to transition smoothly. They'll try to use a higher vocabulary, things like that. But you'll notice those things kind of break down later on in the debate where it's less scripted. And so that's why speaker points matter, and that's what we tell them, is to try to keep up that vocabulary, that strong persuasive value, even in the later portions of the debate when you aren't necessarily just reading from a piece of paper. All right, some other things I want to talk about are when you enter the room as a judge. So there's a few things. Typically, debaters will not enter the room until you do. A lot of that is to make sure that no one's cheating, no one's like setting up a camera to like record the debate illegally, anything like that. So typically they won't be in there. If they are in there, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Unless the competition specifically says students cannot go in before you, it's usually okay. I know we tell our students if the door is already open and the lights are on and it's already ready to go, you can just sit down and wait for the judge to get there, unless the competition says otherwise. So that is fine. When they walk in, they will probably ask you a question that almost every debater is taught to ask, which is, what is your judge philosophy, or what's your experience with debate? This is their way of trying to find out how to best debate in front of you. Don't take it offensively. I've had judges come to me and say, like, why do they keep asking me for my experience? It makes me feel like they're judging me. They're not. Debate is an activity where one of the things we teach them is judge adaptability, so adapting to your audience. They're just trying to see what kind of audience they have in this debate. So they're going to ask you, like, okay, what kind of debates do you like to see? Just let them know. If you are a new judge, you say, I have no idea what kind of judge I am or what I prefer to see. Tell them that. That would help them out a lot. Don't try to be like, well, I'm a doctor, and things like that. That's helpful to some extent if we have like a medical topic. But if we don't, that information is kind of just lost on them. So if there's anything you want them to know, like if you're like, well, I, personally don't agree with this resolution, it's something I just want you all to know, that is great. Now the pro team understands that they need to maybe explain their points a little bit more, or they need to use their impacts a little bit more. so they can adapt to you. That's something that you should definitely tell them. Once you've judged a few debates, you'll start learning what you like and what you don't like, and you can tell them. You can say, hey, I prefer you all to sit during the grand cross-examination because having 4 preteens up and yelling at each other in front of you is just a lot for anybody. So having them sit is something I prefer, so I'll say during that, let's just all sit down because it just gets a little too intense when we're all standing. You can say you don't necessarily like fast talking. You probably will judge your debate where some students talk a little bit faster. That's a habit that's picked up from doing debate for an extended period of time. I know I have, unfortunately, I talk very quickly sometimes because of it. If you say I don't like fast talking, if you keep it at a conversational tone, that helps them know that. But anytime you don't say something, if they get up and they do the thing and you realize you don't like it, don't penalize them for it because you didn't tell them that you didn't like that, and so they didn't know to adapt that way. Now, if you told them something and they proceed to do it, like if you say, I don't like fast talking, and they get up and they're talking 500 words a minute, then yes, that's when you start lowering speaker points because I told you you're not adapting effectively. Yes?
How about the speaker points? So when you give the speaker points, it's after the whole debate, right?
Yes, after the...
It's not only what they talk, say, they talk for 2 minutes or something.
Oh yeah, no, it's at the end of the debate is when you will fill out this entire ballot form. Right.
Suppose
Yep.
they say some fact during the debate,
Mm-hmm.
and you've never heard that fact before, you don't know whether it's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do? Like, I could Google it and see if it's true, or just accept what they give me, or I don't know. Like, it seems hard because we're not experts on the topic.
Yeah.
So.
So this is where debate gets into the fun area of debate isn't debating for the truth, it's debating to make you think I'm telling more of the truth. So they might give you facts that aren't true. It's up to their opponent to call them out on facts that are not correct. If they don't, then we have to move forward as if they're true because your opponent did not respond to them and did not tell me that. And even if I know it to not be true, and this is excluding things that are outlandish, like if they come in and say the sky is green, obviously that is not true on anyone's register. So those are things that we would obviously ignore. But if they're stating a fact that you personally know, maybe from your job field, or maybe you watch the news that morning and they said something different, and they say like, this is actually a fun thing that actually happened in debate. They said the majority of deaths in America happen in hospitals, therefore hospitals are incredibly dangerous. And I laughed because I was like, yes, because people go there when they are dying, unfortunately. But the opponent didn't say anything. And so the debate ended up coming down to hospitals are dangerous and therefore we should not be funding healthcare because our hospitals are insufficient. And unfortunately, I had to vote on that point. I then spent a good bit of time explaining to them why that argument made little to no sense because of how hospitals work and why sick people go there, and that's why they have a large amount of deaths, things like that. So in that case, I just explained to them afterwards, but I cannot, again, hold them to debating me and what I know and what I would say, because that's not fair to them. So if their opponent doesn't say it, typically we'll move forward as if it is true, and even if we don't think or know it's not. Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to understand. So that team that made that argument ended up winning because the other team didn't refute it?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not really looking to see who's right.
Yeah, no.
But rather who is more skilled at what they're doing.
Yep, that's I would say the core of a lot of debates that you will see is it's not about, and especially at the second half of the debate when they start really getting into who said what argument they have here, what's this hole in this argument, you'll find that the debate starts moving a little bit away from the topic and more about, well, they didn't do this, so we should win because this is important because they didn't answer it. And so it moves to the technical side of debate and less the persuasive side. Yes?
Yeah, I heard my kids, they have some experience that the other opponents they ask where the resource comes from. And then they will argue the resource is not reliable, trustable. Based on this, how can we judge that if the debate didn't play very well, sometimes we definitely not know the resource is reliable or not. But if the debate is not explained well, what should we do?
As a judge, the way I view it is that I can only give you what you take. So if you aren't explaining your argument well, I can only give you the full stretch of your explanation. So even if I know, let's say I've coached our teams on an argument and I judge a team that's not ours, using that argument very poorly. I can't give them all I know about the argument. I can't give them the impacts, the articulations, because that's not fair to their opponent, who probably would have responded differently had they explained it the way I think of it. And so in those cases, I can only give you what you say. So if you explain it poorly, even if the argument is a very good argument, unfortunately, it's now a poor argument because of how you've explained it. So a lot of times in those cases, you would take that out in the speaker point area. And in debates, we teach our students, and many coaches teach their students, question the sources of their evidence. If they're making a claim that sounds even slightly fishy, you just ask about it. Say, what website did it come from? Who is this website quoting? Where did this information come from? What's the methodology of the study? So you'll see that in your debates, especially in the question period. They'll start getting into sources, where they came from, why they're credible, things like that, to try to get to the heart of, can we believe this evidence, or should we let it go? In the case of someone, and I've had this happen where someone questioned a source that I knew was credible, and the opponent did a very poor job of defending it. They were like, well, the website is wallbuilders.com, so it's a Trump supporting website. And I was like, this is not proving your source at all. All you're doing is kind of saying where it came from. And so because of that, I was not able to give them, even though I know that that website was quoting a very reliable senator. And so because of that, I couldn't give that to them, unfortunately. And again, I took that out here and I wrote, you need to know your sources. Because you have strong sources. If you knew them, you could use them more effectively. And so that's kind of how we bridge this gap between argumentation and persuasion as well. A few things at the end, this is at the beginning. Make sure you flip a coin in public forum debate. Unless we say otherwise in the email, the rounds their sides are not pre-decided. When they go on the round, they get to flip a coin. Whoever wins the coin toss gets to either pick if they are pro or con. They can also use a different marker. They can also pick if they speak first, this is not much better, or second. So if I flip the coin and I call heads and it lands on heads, then I get to pick if I'm pro or con or first or second. Whatever I don't pick, my opponent automatically is.